Welcome to Descript with Henry, where we unravel crypto stories with clarity. Today, we're diving into something big, the greatest scam in crypto history. Henry, where do we even begin?
Hey Lisa, glad to be here. And wow, this topic, it's massive. The crypto world has had its fair share of scandals, but a few really stand out. Ones that wiped out billions, shattered trust, and changed the game forever.
Right. So when we say the biggest scam, what comes to your mind first?
Without a doubt, FTX. It wasn't just a scam, it was a systemic betrayal. A company that was once the second largest crypto exchange in the world, led by a genius CEO, Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF as people called him.
Yeah, he had that boy genius vibe. Curly hair, hoodie, talking about ethics, donating to political campaigns. Everyone trusted him.
Exactly. He was painted as the face of responsible crypto. Venture capitalists loved him. Mainstream media praised him. He spoke at the biggest conferences and met with US lawmakers. But behind the scenes, a massive black hole.
So what really happened?
To understand the FTX scandal, you need to know that SBF also owned another company called Alameda Research, a trading firm. The problem is, FTX wasn't just an exchange, it became a piggy bank for Alameda.
Wait, isn't that a conflict of interest?
It is. And it gets worse. Alameda was making high-risk bets and losing money. Instead of taking the loss, they used FTX customer deposits to cover it, secretly. Billions of dollars.
That's fraud. Straight up.
Absolutely. But for a long time, nobody knew. The FTX platform worked smoothly. You could trade, withdraw, deposit. They even had celebrity ads with Tom Brady and Larry David. It looked legitimate.
So when did it all collapse?
November 2022. A leaked balance sheet revealed that Alameda's assets were heavily tied up in FTX's own token, FTT. People realized they didn't have real liquidity. Binance, FTX's rival, announced they were selling off their FTT holdings, and that triggered a bank run.
It's like a crypto version of 2008.
Exactly. Everyone tried to withdraw funds. FTX didn't have the money. Within days, it filed for bankruptcy. The damage? Over $8 billion missing.
And what happened to SBF?
He was arrested, charged with fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, the whole package. In 2024, he was convicted. What's shocking is how many smart people were fooled. Top VCs, regulators, politicians, they all bought into the myth of SBF.
How did that happen? I mean, isn't due diligence a thing?
It is. But in bull markets, people suspend critical thinking. They chase momentum. They follow trusted figures. And when someone seems smart and ethical, they don't dig deeper.
So what made FTX different from other scams?
3 things. Firstly, scale. FTX had millions of users across 100 plus countries. Next, legitimacy. They bought Super Bowl ads, got celebrity endorsements, and had a presence in Washington, D.C. Third one is complex deception. This wasn't just a rug pull. It was a slow, methodical misuse of funds, disguised by sophisticated operations.
Do we know how the money was spent?
Some was used for trading losses at Alameda, some for political donations, some for real estate. SBF and executives were living in luxury condos in the Bahamas. They also made huge venture investments using customer funds.
It's so ironic. The guy who claimed to promote effective altruism was secretly bleeding people's savings.
Yeah, that's why it hurts. FTX was supposed to be the mature face of crypto. When it fell, it damaged the reputation of the entire industry.
So what's the takeaway for investors?
Simple. Not your keys, not your coins. Don't leave large amounts of funds on centralized exchanges. And never assume someone is trustworthy just because they're famous or smart. Always verify.
This is just one scam. But there are others too, right?
Oh, definitely. BitConnect, Terra-LUNA, OneCoin, each with a different style, but the same result, people losing everything. Next up, we'll dive into BitConnect, the legendary Ponzi scheme of the crypto world.
We just went through the FTX meltdown, a massive betrayal built within the system. But Henry, Now you're saying there's an even more classic type of scam in crypto history?
Absolutely. Let me take you back to 2017. This is where we meet BitConnect, a textbook Ponzi scheme wrapped in blockchain buzzwords and hype. It's legendary in crypto history, not just for how much money it stole, but how boldly it did it.
BitConnect, I remember the meme guy yelling, BitConnect on stage.
Yes, Carlos Matos. That viral moment pretty much immortalized BitConnect in internet history. But behind the memes was a massive fraud.
So what was BitConnect exactly?
BitConnect was a crypto lending platform. The basic pitch was you buy their token, BCC, and lend it to the platform. In return, BitConnect promised to pay you up to 1% profit per day through a so-called trading bot powered by a secret algorithm.
Wait, 1% per day? That's 30% a month. Compounded, that's insane.
It is. If you invested $1,000 and reinvested the profits, in 1 year, you'd have over $50,000. They made it sound believable by hiding behind crypto hype. People thought, oh, it's a bot, it's algorithmic, it must be real. And at the time, Bitcoin was booming, hitting $20,000, so the timing made it easier to sell the dream.
And people believed it?
Thousands did, especially retail investors. BitConnect targeted newcomers, people unfamiliar with how crypto actually works. They used aggressive marketing, referral systems, and flashy YouTube promoters. A lot of people were promised financial freedom.
Was there a product behind it? A real bot?
Nope. It was pure Ponzi. The early profits were just recycled money from new investors. The more people joined, the more they could pay out to earlier participants, until the music stopped.
So when did it collapse?
In early 2018, regulators started circling. The UK and US issued warnings. BitConnect suddenly announced it was shutting down the lending platform, blaming bad press and regulatory issues. Within hours, the BCC token crashed from over $400 to below $1.
That's a 99.9% loss.
Exactly. Billions of dollars in market value wiped out. Many people lost their life savings.
And what happened to the founders?
They vanished. To this day, the full leadership behind BitConnect remains murky. Some arrests were made later, but it was a shadowy operation. What's worse is how many people were complicit. Influencers promoted it aggressively, some knowingly, others out of greed or ignorance.
That's terrifying. So what were the signs people missed?
Oh, there were so many red flags. Number 1 is guaranteed daily returns. No legitimate investment guarantees profit, especially not at 1% daily. Number 2 is no transparency. The so-called trading bot was never shown. No audits, no code, no proof. Number 3 is referral commissions. It operated like a pyramid. Recruit others, earn commissions. Classic Ponzi mechanics. Number 4 is no real use case. The BCC token had no purpose other than being lent back to BitConnect. It wasn't used anywhere else.
So it thrived because of hype and blind trust?
Yes, and also because the crypto world had little regulation. Scams could market themselves freely online, especially during the 2017 bull run. Many people entered crypto hoping to get rich quickly, and BitConnect exploited that.
It's scary how similar that sounds to what we still see today.
Exactly. The shapes of scams evolve, but the core psychology stays the same. Greed, FOMO, and the illusion of easy money. Whether it's BitConnect or modern-day pump-and-dump schemes, the danger is real.
Were there any efforts to compensate victims?
Very few, because BitConnect operated globally, across jurisdictions, and through anonymous wallets. It's nearly impossible to recover most of the stolen funds. The SEC eventually charged some promoters, but the damage was done.
So what can we learn from BitConnect? Lesson 1. If it sounds too good to be true, it is no real investment gives you consistent, high returns daily. A 1% per day promise is mathematically unsustainable. Lesson 2. Demand transparency. If a platform claims to use bots or trading algorithms, ask, where's the proof? Real projects are open source or at least offer audits. Lesson 3. Avoid hype-driven projects with no real utility. If a token only exists within a platform that you're told to lend or stake into, that's a red flag. Real tokens have external use cases outside the ecosystem. Lesson 4. Be skeptical of referral-heavy systems. If people make more money by recruiting others than by the actual product, it's probably a Ponzi. This is eye-opening. BitConnect might have felt like ancient history in crypto time, but the patterns keep repeating.
They do. The names change, the packaging gets fancier, but the psychology behind scams remains the same. That's why these stories still matter. Not to scare people away from crypto, but to help them walk in with eyes wide open.
So we've covered FTX, a systemic fraud dressed in legitimacy, and BitConnect, a raw Ponzi that preyed on greed. What's next?
Next, we'll talk about a collapse that was not an obvious scam, but one that revealed the fragile nature of crypto mechanics, Terra-LUNA. It promised algorithmic stability and delivered total destruction.
We've gone through FTX, a centralized fraud that collapsed from inside, and BitConnect, a shameless Ponzi built on promises of magic profits. But you mentioned our next story isn't exactly a scam. What do you mean, Henry?
Great question, Lisa. Terra-LUNA was different. It wasn't a Ponzi in the traditional sense. It wasn't some shady group vanishing overnight. It was a highly ambitious project with real developers, huge investors, and massive adoption. And yet, it collapsed spectacularly. Over $45 billion in market cap vanished in a matter of days.
That's shocking. So what was Terra all about?
At the heart of Terra was a stablecoin called UST, short for Terra USD. It was designed to always be worth exactly $1. But unlike stablecoins like USDC or USDT that are backed by real dollars or assets, UST was algorithmic, backed by code, not cash.
Okay, so how did it stay at $1?
It used a clever, or what many thought was clever, mechanism involving another token called Luna. The system worked like this. If UST went above $1, people could trade $1 worth of Luna to mint 1 UST, then sell that UST for a profit, which would push the price back down. If UST went below $1, people could trade 1 UST for $1 worth of Luna, burning UST and reducing supply, which would push the price back up.
So, it relied on market incentives to keep UST stable?
Exactly. The theory was that arbitrage would maintain the peg. But here's the problem. If confidence breaks and people start mass selling UST, the system requires printing huge amounts of Luna to buy it back. That causes Luna to hyperinflate, destroying both tokens.
Oh, wow. So what triggered the collapse?
In May 2022, a few big players started dumping UST. There were rumors of an attack or just a general loss of confidence. UST began slipping below $1 to $0.98, $0.95, and suddenly panic set in.
Was there any backup plan?
Not really. The team behind Terra, led by Kwon, had accumulated a Bitcoin reserve to try and defend the peg. But it wasn't enough. As people dumped UST, the system printed massive amounts of Luna to compensate. But that only flooded the market with worthless Luna.
So it was a death spiral?
Exactly. In just 1 week, Luna's price dropped from over $80 to less than a penny. UST fell to under $0.10. Investors, especially retail holders, lost everything.
And weren't a lot of people using Terra for savings?
Yes. That's the really heartbreaking part. There was an app called Anchor Protocol. It offered 20% annual interest for holding UST. A lot of people thought it was a safe savings account. They didn't realize it was propped up by subsidies and unsustainable incentives.
So were the creators malicious or just wrong?
That's still debated. Kwon was extremely arrogant and dismissive of critics. He mocked anyone who questioned Terra's design. But there's no proof he intended to scam people. It was more like hubris meeting flawed economics.
And the regulators? Where were they?
At the time, algorithmic stablecoins were a gray area. After the crash, governments around the world began taking stablecoins seriously. The US Senate, for example, started drafting legislation specifically to prevent a Terra-style collapse.
So how much was lost, roughly?
Over $45 billion in combined market value vanished. That doesn't include the downstream effects, hedge funds that were wiped out, contagion in DeFi, and regular investors whose life savings were in UST.
It sounds like a slow-motion train wreck.
That's the thing. Terra looked legitimate. It had partnerships, audits, investors like Pantera Capital, and even government discussions in South Korea. But the system was fragile, and once cracks formed, it collapsed faster than anyone expected. The lessons from Terra-LUNA. Lesson 1. Stability needs real backing. Algorithmic stablecoins might sound elegant, but without real reserves, like dollars or treasury bonds, they're incredibly fragile. Code can't replace cash when confidence collapses. Lesson 2. Yield should match risk. Anchor's 20% yield was too good to be true. Always ask, where's the yield coming from? If it's heavily subsidized or relies on endless growth, it's not sustainable. Lesson 3. Don't confuse complexity with safety. A lot of people trusted Terra because it sounded smart, with its mint burn mechanism, game theory, and decentralized label. But complexity can hide risk, not eliminate it. Lesson 4. Ego can be dangerous. Do Kwon's arrogance blinded him and his followers. When leaders dismiss criticism and surround themselves with yes men, the system is doomed to collapse eventually.
So Terra wasn't an obvious scam, but the result was the same: devastation.
Exactly. That's what makes it one of the most insidious collapses in crypto. It didn't wear the face of a scam, but it left people ruined. Some investors even took their own lives.
That's heartbreaking. And it shows how important education is in this space.
Yes, and also emotional discipline. In crypto, you'll see big promises, fast gains, and charismatic leaders. But the key is to understand what you're investing in and question everything.
So looking back at FTX, BitConnect, and Terra-LUNA, 3 different disasters, what's the common thread?
They all show that crypto doesn't escape human behavior. Whether it's greed, arrogance, or blind trust. The tech may be new, but the patterns are ancient. And that's why stories like these matter.
That's a powerful way to wrap up. Thank you, Henry, for walking us through these crypto catastrophes. Hopefully, this helps our listeners stay sharp.
Always happy to help. And remember, folks, in crypto, do your own research, stay humble, and never chase promises that don't make sense.
We'll see you next time on Descript with Henry. Stay safe and stay skeptical.